Have you ever looked at the world map and wondered how some nations just seem to become economic powerhouses while others struggle? Well, it's rarely about luck. Today, we're diving into the strategic playbook countries use to build powerful, future-proof economies. So let's kick things off with a pretty provocative question. You see the headlines all the time, right? GDP is up, the economy is growing. That's always good news. Or is it? Does a bigger number automatically tell the whole story about a country's health?
The reality is not all growth is created equal. History has shown us that if an economy just gets bigger, but doesn't fundamentally change how it works, it can actually become incredibly fragile. You end up with deep inequality, and eventually the whole thing just grinds to a halt.
And that brings us to the real goal here. It's not just about growth for growth's sake. The real game changer is a much deeper concept called structural transformation. This is the true engine of a resilient modern economy.
So, what on earth is structural transformation? Well, think of it like a massive upgrade for an entire economy. It's all about systematically shifting your resources. We're talking people, money, technology, out of old, low-productivity jobs and into new, high-productivity ones. It's the difference between a basic assembly line and an advanced robotics lab, or from simple farming to cutting-edge biotech.
A really great way to picture this is like a nation's career path. Early on, an economy is factor-driven. It just gets by in its basic labor and whatever natural resources it has. Then it gets smarter and becomes efficiency-driven, learning to make things better and faster. But the ultimate goal, the top of the ladder, is to become innovation-driven, where you're not just making things, you're creating brand new ideas and technologies that literally shape the world.
Okay, so how do governments actually steer this massive journey? The main tool in their toolbox is something called industrial policy. And what's absolutely fascinating is seeing how the thinking behind that policy has dramatically evolved over time.
This table shows such a cool evolution in thinking. Way back when, a lot of countries tried import substitution. Basically, they put up big walls to protect their brand new infant industries. Then, the thinking shifted to a more strategic approach, where the government acts more like a catalyst, nurturing promising sectors. And that brings us to today with smart industrial policy, which is all about being data-driven, focused on green tech, and building entire ecosystems where innovation can just take off.
And this quote really hits the nail on the head. The whole paradigm has shifted. Modern industrial policy isn't about the government trying to micromanage everything or pick winners. Nope. It's about being a strategic coordinator, creating the right environment and systems so that innovative companies can adapt, experiment, and thrive.
But here's the thing. Even the absolute smartest policies in the world are just ideas on paper if you don't have the right foundation in place. To really work, they need to be built on two critical types of infrastructure.
And they're really two sides of the same coin. You have hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure. The hard stuff is all the physical things you can see and touch. The soft stuff, that's the invisible but just as vital network of people and institutions that makes everything tick.
Let's make that super concrete. Hard infrastructure, that's your modern ports, your 5G networks, your reliable energy grids. Soft infrastructure, that's your skilled engineers, your world-class universities, and your fair legal system. And the key takeaway here is you absolutely need both. I mean, what good is the world's most advanced data center if you don't have the brilliant people and innovative companies who can actually use it to build something new?
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. Let's see how structural transformation, smart policy, and all this infrastructure come together to tackle the huge economic challenges of the 21st century.
When you look at industrial strategy today, it's this incredible balancing act. It's all about chasing three connected goals at the same time: a digital future, a green future, and a sovereign future. And right in the middle, where those three circles overlap, that's the sweet spot. That's where you find what's called resilient reindustrialization.
So first up, you've got the digital transformation. This is about weaving AI, automation, and hyperconnectivity into the very fabric of the economy. And we're not just talking about tech companies here. This is about turning every industry, from manufacturing to farming, into a smart industry.
Second, there's the green transition. For decades, being sustainable was seen as a cost, right? A burden on growth. Well, that idea, it's completely dead. Today, green innovation and decarbonization are seen for what they are: a massive competitive advantage and the foundation for the next generation of global industries.
And third, the shocks of the last few years have been a real wake-up call about being too dependent on others. This has put a laser focus on technological sovereignty, making sure a nation has secure supply chains
and control over the critical technologies that its entire economy and security rely on.
And this all leads to a really powerful conclusion for our time. The winning economies of the 21st century will be the ones that understand that being competitive and being sustainable are not enemies anymore. They're actually converging. They're two sides of the very same coin.
Which leaves us with one final, massive question for the future. As emerging economies push for their own transformations, how can they grow quickly without getting trapped in the past? How do they avoid carbon lock-in, getting stuck with the old, polluting fossil fuel infrastructure? Honestly, finding the answer to that is going to define the next 100 years of global development.